I found the hotel receipt in her gym bag while looking for my phone charger. Tuesday, 3:47 p.m. The Riverside Inn, room 214. My wife Emily had told me she was at a marketing conference that afternoon. The Riverside Inn was 20 minutes from our house, not downtown where the conference center stood. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. Instead, something cold and calculating settled into my chest like ice forming on a winter lake. I took a photo of the receipt, placed it back exactly where I'd found it, and went to my office. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I'd learned more about my wife of 9 years than I had in our entire marriage. The private investigator I hired, a former cop named Bill Garrett, had delivered his preliminary report yesterday. 43 pages of timestamps, photographs, and documented evidence that Emily had been sleeping with her boss, Derek Walsh, for at least 7 months. The photos showed them entering the Riverside Inn on 6 different occasions, always between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., always on days when Emily claimed to be working late or attending professional development seminars. Bill had even managed to get credit card statements showing Derek paid for the rooms, charged expensive dinners at restaurants Emily had never mentioned visiting, and bought her jewelry I'd never seen her wear. "You've got enough for a fault-based divorce in this state," Bill had said, sliding the folder across the table at the diner where we'd met. "Adultery is still grounds here. Affects alimony calculations, asset division, everything." I'd nodded, studying the photographs of my wife laughing as she walked hand in hand with another man through a parking lot. She looked happier than I'd seen her in months. "I need more," I told him. "More? Mr. Patterson, I need everything. Financial records, communication logs, witness statements. I need this airtight." Bill had studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're planning something." "I'm planning to protect myself and my daughter." Now, sitting in my home office at 11 p.m. on a Friday night, I reviewed the expanded file Bill had delivered that morning. Emily thought I was working on a project proposal. She was downstairs watching television, probably texting Derek between episodes of whatever show she was pretending to care about. The financial records were particularly interesting. Derek Walsh, age 42, married with 3 kids, lived in a house worth $890,000 in the Oakmont subdivision. His wife, Jennifer Walsh, was a pediatric nurse who apparently had no idea her husband spent his afternoons in cheap hotels with his subordinate. Emily's text messages, which Bill had obtained through methods I didn't ask about and he didn't explain, painted a clear picture. They'd met at a company retreat last August. The affair started physical in September. By October, they were discussing their future together. Emily had written that she was waiting for the right time to leave me. Derek kept promising he'd leave Jennifer soon. The classic affair script playing out in my marriage like a bad movie. What made my blood run coldest wasn't the betrayal itself. It was reading Emily's messages about our daughter, Sophie. "He'll barely notice we're gone," Emily had written. "He works 80 hours a week anyway. Sophie and I will be better off without his emotional distance." I'd read that line 5 times, each reading stoking the cold fury building in my chest. Emotional distance. I'd been working those hours to pay for the house Emily wanted, the private school Emily insisted Sophie attend, the lifestyle Emily claimed we needed to maintain for her career advancement. And now my 9-year-old daughter was going to be better off without me? Not happening. I opened a new document and began typing. The list had been forming in my mind for weeks, but now I committed it to paper. 1. Secure all financial assets. 2. Document all marital property. 3. Gather witness statements. 4. Consult divorce attorney. 5. Prepare custody case. 6. Expose affair to Walsh's wife. 7. Report relationship to their company. HR. 8. File for divorce. The company angle was particularly promising. I'd spent the last week reviewing the employee handbook for Meridian Marketing Solutions, where both Emily and Derek worked. Page 47, Section 12, Paragraph 3. Romantic or sexual relationships between supervisors and direct reports are strictly prohibited and constitute grounds for immediate termination. Derek Walsh was Emily's direct supervisor. He approved her time cards, her performance reviews, her bonus calculations. Every raise she'd received in the past 7 months was potentially tainted by their relationship. Every business trip they'd taken together, and according to Bill's research there had been 4, was a violation of company policy. I'd already compiled a comprehensive report for Meridian's HR department and their legal team. It included dates, times, locations, and photographic evidence of the affair. I'd documented every business expense Derek had approved for Emily during their relationship, highlighting the potential conflicts of interest. I'd even found 3 other female employees who'd been passed over for promotions that Emily received, potential witnesses to favoritism. But I wasn't sending it yet. Timing was everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Coming to bed soon?" "Another hour," I typed back. "Almost done." "You work too hard," she replied, followed by a heart emoji. I stared at that heart emoji for a long moment, then returned to my planning. Monday morning, I had an appointment with Catherine Brennan, a divorce attorney whose reputation for aggressive representation in infidelity cases was legendary. Tuesday afternoon, I was meeting with my financial advisor to restructure our accounts in preparation for asset division. Wednesday, I'd scheduled a consultation with a child psychologist who specialized in custody evaluations. Emily had no idea what was coming. The weekend passed in a haze of normalcy that felt like performance art. Saturday morning, Emily made pancakes while I read the newspaper. Sophie chattered about her upcoming school play. We went to the farmer's market, bought overpriced organic vegetables, smiled at neighbors. Emily's hand found mine while we walked. I let her hold it. Sunday evening, after Sophie went to bed, Emily curled up next to me on the couch. "I've been thinking," she said. "Maybe we should plan a vacation, just the 3 of us, get away for a week." "Where were you thinking?" "Somewhere tropical. Sophie would love the beach." Her head rested on my shoulder. "We could use the time together." "I'll check my schedule." "You always say that." No edge to her voice, just resignation. I kissed the top of her head. "I mean it this time." She looked up at me, and for a moment something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe? Or calculation. "I love you," she said. "Love you too." The words came easily. I'd said them 1,000 times. They meant nothing now. Monday morning arrived cold and clear. Emily left for work at 7:30, kissing me goodbye at the door. I waited 15 minutes, then gathered the file folders I'd prepared over the weekend. Catherine Brennan's office occupied the top floor of a renovated historic building downtown. Exposed brick, hardwood floors, tasteful artwork. The receptionist offered coffee. I accepted. Brennan herself appeared at 9 o'clock sharp. Mid-50s, steel gray hair cut short, navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Her handshake was firm. "Mr. Patterson, please, come in." Her office overlooked the river. She gestured to a leather chair across from her desk, then settled into her own seat with the ease of someone who'd conducted this meeting hundreds of times. "I've reviewed the preliminary information you provided," she said. "Before we proceed, I need to be clear about my fees. My retainer is $25,000. Hourly rate is $600. Given the complexity of what you've described, you should budget between $75,000 and $100,000 for the full process." "Not a problem," she nodded. "Good. Now, show me what you have." I opened the first folder. 7 months of documented infidelity. Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, gift purchases, text message logs, photographic evidence. The affair is with her direct supervisor, which violates their company's fraternization policy. I slid the materials across her desk. She began reading, her expression neutral. The text messages, she said after a moment. How were these obtained? Private investigator, Bill Garrett. I know Bill, good man, she continued reading. These indicate intent to relocate with your daughter. Yes? And you've been married how long? 11 years? Children? One daughter, Sophie. She's 9. Brennan made notes on a legal pad. Your wife's income. $85,000 base salary plus bonuses. Last year she cleared about $110,000. Yours? $240,000. Assets? House is worth $620,000. We owe $280,000 on the mortgage. Joint savings about $90,000. Retirement accounts roughly $400,000 combined. 2 cars, both paid off. She wrote it all down. This is a fault state, Mr. Patterson. Adultery is grounds for divorce, and it can impact property division and alimony. However, custody is determined by the best interest of the child. The affair itself won't automatically grant you primary custody. I understand. Tell me about your relationship with your daughter. I work long hours. Emily's been the primary caregiver, but I'm involved. I help with homework when I'm home. We do activities together on weekends. How long are your work hours? 70, 80 hours a week. Brennan's pen paused. That's going to be a problem. Courts favor stability and established routine. If Emily's been the primary caregiver for 9 years, that's the status quo. You'll need to demonstrate that you can provide equal or better care. I'm prepared to reduce my hours. To what extent? Whatever it takes. She studied me. Mr. Patterson, I need you to be realistic. Can you actually do that? Will your employer allow it? I'm a senior partner at my firm. I have flexibility. Then you need to start demonstrating that flexibility now. Today. Not after you file. Courts look at established patterns, not promises. If you want primary custody, you need to become the primary caregiver before we go to court. I hadn't considered that. How long do we have? I'd recommend at least 3 months of documented involvement before filing. 6 would be better. School pickup, doctor's appointments, parent-teacher conferences, extracurricular activities. You need to be present and provable. That delays everything. It strengthens everything, she leaned forward. You have excellent evidence of adultery. That helps with property division and eliminates alimony. But custody is different. Judges care about one thing: what's best for the child. Right now, based on what you've told me, what's best for Sophie is staying with the parent who's been raising her for 9 years. The logic was sound. I didn't like it, but it was sound. There's another factor, Brennan continued. The text messages indicate your wife plans to relocate. If she files first and moves with Sophie before we can get a custody order, we're fighting an uphill battle. Courts don't like disrupting children's established living situations. So we file first. Not necessarily. If we file now, you're the one disrupting the status quo. The court will likely grant temporary custody to Emily pending the hearing, since she's been the primary caregiver. Then you're trying to change an existing order, which is harder than establishing one. What do you recommend? Build your case. Become Sophie's primary caregiver. Document everything. School events, medical appointments, daily routines. Get affidavits from teachers, coaches, anyone who can speak to your involvement. Then, when we file, we're not asking the court to change anything. We're asking them to preserve what already exists. And if Emily files first? Then we respond aggressively with the adultery evidence and argue that her affair and planned relocation demonstrate poor judgment and instability. But that's our backup plan. The primary strategy should be establishing yourself as the custodial parent before any filing occurs. I thought about it. 3 to 6 months of maintaining the pretense. 3 to 6 months of sleeping next to Emily, eating breakfast with her, pretending everything was fine. There's a risk, I said. The longer we wait, the more likely she discovers what I know. That's true. But the alternative is filing now and potentially losing custody. Which risk are you willing to take? I looked out the window at the river below. A barge moved slowly upstream, fighting the current. I'll do it, I said. 3 months minimum, 6 if needed. Good. In the meantime, I'll prepare the divorce petition so we're ready to file immediately when the time comes. I'll also draft a motion for temporary custody and a request for exclusive use of the marital residence. When we move fast. She pulled out a client agreement. This outlines my fees and responsibilities. Read it carefully. If you're comfortable with the terms, sign and date at the bottom. I scanned the document. Standard legal language, nothing unexpected. I signed. One more thing, Brennan said. Do you have life insurance? Yes, 500,000. Emily's the beneficiary. Change it, today. Make your daughter the beneficiary with a trust provision. If something happens to you during this process, you don't want your wife collecting a payout. I hadn't thought of that either. I'll handle it this afternoon. Good. She stood, extending her hand. I'll be in touch later this week with the draft petition. In the meantime, start documenting your parental involvement. Keep a journal. Save every email, every text, every receipt related to Sophie. Build the foundation. I shook her hand and left. The financial advisor meeting was at 2. Robert Crane worked out of a small office in a professional complex near the highway. Mid-40s, friendly demeanor, came recommended by a colleague. Mr. Patterson, good to meet you. Have a seat. His office was smaller than Brennan's, less polished, but the credentials on the wall were impressive. I understand you're preparing for a divorce, he said. That's right. And you want to protect your assets. I want to understand my exposure and minimize the damage. Crane pulled out a calculator and legal pad. Walk me through your complete financial picture. Everything. I spent the next hour detailing bank accounts, retirement funds, investment portfolios, real estate, debts, income sources. Crane took notes, asked questions, ran calculations. The financial advisor's office smelled like leather and old money. Robert Klein sat across from me, 60-something with silver hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He'd been managing my investments for 8 years. We'd met twice a year, usually to discuss portfolio performance and retirement planning. This meeting had a different purpose. I appreciate you seeing me on short notice, I said. Of course. He closed the folder in front of him. Your email mentioned some significant life changes coming. A divorce. I'm planning to file in about 5 months. His expression didn't change. He'd probably heard this 100 times. I see. And you want to understand the financial implications. I want to protect my assets, legally. He nodded, pulling a legal pad toward him. Walk me through your current situation. Income, assets, debts. I'd prepared for this. My base salary is $240,000. Annual bonus typically adds another $60,000 to $80,000. Emily makes approximately $110,000. We have $340,000 in equity in the house. Joint savings account has $85,000. My 401k has $420,000. Hers has maybe $90,000. No significant debts beyond the mortgage. Robert wrote steadily. Any inheritances? Separate property from before the marriage? Nothing significant. We've been married 11 years. Everything's commingled. Children? One daughter, Sophie. She's 9. He set down his pen. The custody arrangement will impact everything. Child support, potentially alimony. Your attorney is handling that side? She is. I'm working on establishing myself as primary caregiver before filing. Smart. He tapped the pad. Let's talk about what you can do now, legally, to protect yourself. First, document everything. Every asset, every account, every valuable in your home. Take photos. Make spreadsheets. People have a tendency to make things disappear when they know divorce is coming. I'd already started that process, but I nodded. Second, understand that California is a community property state. Wait, you're in Virginia, correct? Correct. Virginia is equitable distribution, which gives you more flexibility. The court divides assets fairly, not necessarily equally. Your higher income, your role as primary caregiver, her affair, these all factor in. He paused. Your attorney mentioned the affair? She knows. I have extensive documentation. Good. In Virginia, fault still matters. It affects alimony calculations, sometimes asset division. The affair gives you leverage. He pulled out a calculator. Let's run some numbers. Worst case scenario, you're looking at splitting marital assets roughly 60-40 in your favor, given the fault basis. The 401k balances, the home equity, savings, call it $935,000 in total assets. You'd walk away with approximately $560,000. She'd get $375,000. The numbers felt abstract. And alimony? Depends on duration of marriage, income disparity, and fault. 11 years married, you make about twice what she does. Normally, I'd say you're looking at alimony for 3 to 5 years. But the affair changes things. Your attorney can argue for reduced duration or elimination entirely. What about child support? Different calculation, based on custody arrangement and income. If you have primary physical custody, she'd likely pay you support. Virginia uses a guideline calculation with your incomes and one child. If you have primary custody, she'd pay roughly $800 to $1,000 per month. I did the math. The financial hit would be significant but manageable. What should I do with the joint accounts before filing? Robert leaned back. Legally, you can withdraw up to half without penalty. Some attorneys recommend it to prevent the other spouse from draining accounts, but it can look bad to a judge if you're too aggressive. I want to do this right. Then document the current balances. Take screenshots. Get statements. If you see any unusual activity before you file, large withdrawals, transfers, that's when you act. Otherwise, leave it alone until your attorney gives the word. He pulled out another document. Now let's talk about protecting your income going forward. You can't hide assets, but you can be strategic. That bonus you mentioned, when does it typically pay out? March. And you're planning to file in what, June? Approximately. The bonus will be considered marital property if it's earned during the marriage, even if paid after separation. But future bonuses earned after separation are yours alone. Timing matters. He made a note. What about stock options, restricted stock units, anything like that? Some RSUs. They vest quarterly. Current unvested value is around $75,000. Those will be divided based on when they were earned. It gets complicated. Make sure your attorney has all the details. He flipped to a new page. Let's talk about the house. $340,000 in equity. Do you want to keep it? I hadn't thought that far ahead. For Sophie's stability, maybe. You'd need to refinance in your name only. Buy out Emily's share of the equity. With your income, that's feasible. Or you sell and split the proceeds. Depends on what matters more. Sophie's continuity or a clean break. I'll need to think about that. Fair enough. One more thing. Life insurance. Do you have policies? Yes. $500,000 policy on me. Emily's the beneficiary. $250,000 on her. I'm the beneficiary. You'll want to change your beneficiary before filing. Make it Sophie or a trust for Sophie. Don't leave Emily as beneficiary once this starts. He wrote that down, circled it. Actually, check your policy language. Some require spousal consent to change beneficiaries. If yours does, change it anyway. You can argue you had cause given the affair. We spent another 20 minutes going through details. Credit cards, car titles, Sophie's college fund, even the wine collection in our basement that I'd forgotten about. Robert was thorough. He'd seen this before, knew which details mattered. Last question, he said. Are you prepared for this to get ugly? Financially, I mean. Divorce litigation is expensive. If she fights you on custody, if she contests the fault allegations, you could spend $50,000 to $100,000 in legal fees. Maybe more. I'm prepared. And you're certain this is what you want? I ask because I've seen people in your position. They're angry, they want justice, they spend a fortune fighting over principle. Sometimes the smartest financial move is a quick settlement, even if it feels unfair. I met his eyes. This isn't about the money. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Okay. Then my advice is simple. Document everything, follow your attorney's guidance, and don't do anything stupid. No hiding assets, no revenge spending, no games with the accounts. Play it straight, let the affair speak for itself, and you'll come out ahead. We shook hands. I left with a folder full of worksheets and projections, action items highlighted in yellow. The meeting had taken 90 minutes. It was 11:20 a.m. I sat in my car in the parking garage, reviewing Robert's notes. The financial picture was clearer now. I'd take a hit, but I'd survive. More importantly, I had a roadmap. My phone buzzed. Emily. Don't forget Sophie has soccer at 1. Can you pick her up? I have a work thing. A work thing, on Saturday. I felt that familiar cold anger, but I kept my response simple. I'll get her. Thank you. The heart emoji felt obscene. I deleted the message thread and started the car. Sophie's soccer game was in an hour and a half. I had time. I drove to Office Depot and bought 3 things: a portable document scanner, a fireproof safe, and a 128GB flash drive. At home, Emily's car was gone. The work thing had started early. I carried my purchases upstairs to my office and locked the door. The safe went in the back of my closet, behind the winter coats. The scanner connected to my laptop via USB. I spent the next 40 minutes scanning every document Bill Garrett had given me. 43 pages became digital files, encrypted and backed up to the flash drive. The originals went into the safe. Then I scanned our tax returns from the last 5 years. Bank statements, investment statements, the house deed, Sophie's birth certificate, Emily's employment contract that I'd found in her filing cabinet, everything that mattered. By 12:30, I had 2 complete sets of documentation, one physical, one digital. Both locked away where Emily would never find them. I changed into jeans and a polo shirt, grabbed my keys, and headed out to pick up Sophie. She'd want to stop for ice cream after the game. She always did. And I'd say yes because that's what primary caregivers do. They show up. They say yes to ice cream. They build a pattern of involvement that family court judges recognize. Emily had no idea what was coming, but in 5 months, she'd find out. The bank manager looked at me across her desk with professional concern. It was Tuesday morning, 9:30 a.m. I'd taken a rare personal day, citing a dentist appointment Emily wouldn't question. I understand you'd like to restructure your accounts, Mr. Patterson? That's correct. I want to establish separate accounts while maintaining the joint checking for household expenses. My paychecks will be deposited into a new individual account, and I'll transfer a set amount to the joint account each month for bills and family expenses. Lisa Brennan, no relation to the attorney, typed notes into her computer. That's fairly common. Many couples prefer to maintain both joint and individual accounts. Will your wife be doing the same? She can if she wants. I'm only restructuring my own finances. The process took 40 minutes. New checking account, new savings account, both in my name only. I transferred half of our current joint savings, $47,000, into the new savings account. Perfectly legal. We'd built that together over 9 years, and I was entitled to half. The other half stayed in the joint account where Emily could access it. No judge would fault me for protecting my own earnings. I changed my direct deposit information during lunch, sitting in my car outside the office. 2 clicks in the payroll system. My next paycheck would land in an account Emily didn't know existed. The phone rang as I was pulling out of the parking lot. Bill Garrett. "Got something you need to see," he said. "Can you meet this afternoon?" "What is it?" "Not over the phone. Same diner, 4 o'clock?" I checked my watch. "I'll be there." Bill slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were printouts of text messages dated from last night. Emily, 11:47 p.m. "Can't sleep. Keep thinking about us." Derek, 11:52 p.m. "Same. Jennifer's snoring next to me, and all I see is you." Emily, 11:54 p.m. "When can we stop hiding?" Derek, 11:58 p.m. "Soon, I promise. Just need to handle things right." Emily, 12:03 a.m. "You keep saying that. It's been 7 months." Derek, 12:07 a.m. "I know, but the kids, the house, it's complicated." Emily, 12:09 a.m. "What about my life? Sophie deserves better than watching me pretend with him." Derek, 12:14 a.m. "I'll talk to my lawyer next week. Get the process started." I read through the exchange twice. Emily had been awake at 11:47 p.m., texting her lover while I was 15 feet away in my office, planning her destruction. "There's more," Bill said. He pointed to another printout. "From this morning." Emily, 8:23 a.m. "He took a personal day. Never does that." Derek, 8:31 a.m. "Probably nothing. Don't get paranoid." Emily, 8:34 a.m. "Something feels off. He's been different lately." Derek, 8:40 a.m. "Different how?" Emily, 8:43 a.m. "More attentive, asking about Sophie's schedule, offering to help with things." Derek, 8:47 a.m. "Maybe he's finally stepping up as a dad." Emily, 8:49 a.m. "Or maybe he suspects something." Derek, 8:55 a.m. "You're overthinking. If he knew, he'd have said something by now." My hands didn't shake. My pulse stayed steady. But something shifted in my chest. The timeline was compressing. Emily was getting suspicious. Derek was talking to lawyers. I'd planned for 3 to 6 months of documentation, but I might not have that long. "When's your next meeting with Catherine Brennan?" Bill asked. "Tomorrow morning." "Show her these." The bit about Derek talking to his lawyer, that changes things. If he files first and names your wife as the other party, it complicates your strategy. I nodded. Derek filing for divorce would expose the affair before I was ready. Jennifer Walsh would learn about it. Meridian Marketing Solutions would learn about it. The carefully orchestrated revelation I'd planned would detonate prematurely, and I'd lose control of the narrative. "Keep monitoring," I said. "I need to know the moment Derek contacts an attorney." "Already on it. I've got a contact at the firm he'll probably use, Whitfield and Associates. They handle most of the high net worth divorces in this area. If he schedules a consultation, I'll know within 24 hours." Bill pushed another envelope across the table. "Also got the financial records you requested. Derek's mortgage, car payments, credit cards. He's leveraged pretty heavily. That $890,000 house? He's got a $720,000 mortgage on it. 2 car leases, both luxury. Credit card balances totaling $43,000. Jennifer doesn't work. Stay-at-home mother. 3 kids, ages 12, 9, and 6. She gave up a nursing career when the first one was born." I did the math. Derek made around $180,000 as a senior VP at Meridian. Comfortable, but not enough to maintain his current lifestyle, plus support a divorce, alimony, and child support for 3 kids. If Jennifer got a decent attorney, she'd take him for everything, which meant Derek couldn't afford to leave his wife, which meant Emily was waiting for something that would never happen. "One more thing," Bill said. He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. Derek and Emily in a parking garage taken yesterday. They were standing between 2 cars, Derek's hand on Emily's waist, their faces close together. The timestamp read 12:17 p.m. Lunch hour, Bill said. They met in the garage at Meridian for 11 minutes. No hotel this time, just talking. But look at her expression. I zoomed in. Emily's face was tight, frustrated. Derek looked like he was trying to calm her down. She's pushing him, I said. Yeah, and he's stalling. My guess? He's been feeding her promises for 7 months with no intention of following through. He gets the affair, keeps his marriage, maintains his lifestyle. She's the one taking all the risk. I handed the phone back. How long until she figures it out? Hard to say. Some people never do. Others wake up one day and realize they've been played. Bill leaned back in his booth. But based on these texts, I'd say she's starting to ask the right questions. Catherine Brennan reviewed the new text messages with her reading glasses perched on her nose. Her office was on the 14th floor of a downtown building, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. This accelerates things, she said. If Derek Walsh retains counsel and files, it triggers a chain reaction you can't control. Can we file first? We can. But you haven't established the parenting pattern I recommended. You've been more involved for 3 weeks? A judge will look at 9 years of history versus 3 weeks of changed behavior. Emily's still the primary caregiver in any objective analysis. So what do you suggest? Catherine set the printouts down and folded her hands. We have 2 options. Option 1. File now, use the affair as leverage, and fight hard for custody. It's a battle, and the outcome is uncertain. Option 2. Continue the documentation for another 6 to 8 weeks, establish a stronger pattern, and file from a position of strength. What if Derek files in the next 6 weeks? Then we respond aggressively. The affair still works in your favor, but we lose the element of surprise and control over timing. She paused. There's a third option you might not have considered, which is accelerate your parenting involvement to a level that's undeniable. Take over the morning routine completely. Be the one who handles Sophie's homework every night. Volunteer for every school event. Make yourself indispensable in a way that's documented and visible. I'm already doing more than I used to. More isn't enough. You need to be primary. That means Emily needs to step back, which she won't do voluntarily. Catherine tapped her pen against the desk. Unless she's distracted. I understood immediately. You want me to encourage the affair? I want you to create space for Emily to be less present. If she's spending more time with Derek, she's spending less time with Sophie. If she's distracted and absent, you fill that vacuum. In 2 months, the pattern is clear. Dad is the stable, present parent. Mom is checked out and involved in an extramarital relationship. It was elegant, ruthless, but elegant. How do I encourage it without being obvious? Work late less often. Be home for dinner. When you're home, take over Sophie's care completely. Emily will have more free time. People having affairs tend to fill free time with their affair partner. Catherine smiled thinly. Human nature does the rest. I thought about Emily texting Derek at midnight while I worked upstairs. About their parking garage meetings during lunch hours. About her frustration that Derek wouldn't commit. She's already pushing him to leave his wife, I said. If I give her more opportunity to see him, she'll push harder. And he'll either commit or refuse. If he commits, he files for divorce and exposes the affair himself, which helps you. If he refuses, Emily gets more frustrated and reckless. Either way, the affair intensifies and her parenting involvement decreases. Catherine pulled out a legal pad and started writing. Here's what I need from you over the next 8 weeks. The next morning, I was up at 6:30. Emily didn't stir when I got out of bed. I made pancakes. Real ones, not the frozen kind Sophie usually got on weekends. I cut strawberries into thin slices and arranged them in a smiley face on top. When Sophie came downstairs at 7:15 in her pajamas, her eyes went wide. Dad made breakfast? Thought we could do something special today. I set the plate in front of her. What do you want to do? Your choice. She stared at the pancakes like they might disappear. The science museum? Perfect. Go get dressed. Emily appeared 20 minutes later, phone already in her hand. She looked at the kitchen, the mixing bowl I'd left in the sink, the strawberry stems on the cutting board, Sophie's empty plate. You made breakfast. Sophie and I are going to the science museum. Want to come? The invitation hung there. I watched her process it. Her thumb moved across her phone screen. Typing something, deleting it. I have that report to finish for Monday. On Saturday? Derek needs it first thing. She didn't look up from her phone. You two have fun. Sophie came back down wearing mismatched socks and a shirt with a dinosaur on it. She grabbed my hand. Ready. I looked at Emily one more time. She was already walking toward her home office, phone pressed to her ear. Yeah, he's taking her out, she said into the phone. Her voice faded as she climbed the stairs. I know. Finally. The Science Museum had an exhibit on genetics. Sophie dragged me to a display about inherited traits. Eye color, hair texture, blood type. She pressed buttons that lit up different combinations of dominant and recessive genes. See, Dad, if you have brown eyes and Mom has brown eyes, I got brown eyes because it's dominant. I looked at the display. At the cheerful cartoon parents and their cartoon child. At the simple Punnett squares that made everything seem so straightforward. That's right, I said. She moved to the next display, something about dinosaur DNA. I stayed at the genetics exhibit for another moment, thinking about the folder in my locked file cabinet. The one I hadn't opened yet. The one Bill had delivered 4 days ago with an expression I couldn't quite read. Mr. Patterson, he'd said, there's something else. I'd paid him for the affair documentation, paid him well, but he'd kept digging anyway. Your daughter, Sophie. My hands had gone cold. I wasn't looking for this, Bill said. But the timeline bothered me. You said you and Emily had trouble conceiving, that you used a sperm donor. Yes? Emily told you it was anonymous, from a sperm bank. That's what she said. Bill had slid the folder across the table. It wasn't anonymous. Sophie wanted to see the planetarium show. We sat in the dark theater while stars wheeled overhead and a calm voice explained the life cycle of galaxies. Sophie leaned against my shoulder, her hand small in mine. I thought about the folder, about what Bill had found. Emily had insisted on choosing the donor herself. She'd said she wanted to review the profiles carefully, make sure we picked someone with good genetics, high intelligence, no family history of disease. I'd been grateful. I'd been working 80-hour weeks back then, trying to make partner. She'd handled all of it. The donor wasn't from a sperm bank. Bill had found the payments. Monthly transfers from Emily's personal account, the one she'd had before we got married, the one I'd never monitored. $1,500 a month for 6 months. Payments that started 9 months before Sophie was born. Payments to Derek Walsh. Dad, you okay? Sophie was looking up at me. The planetarium show had ended. People were filing out around us. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thinking. About what? About how much fun we're having. She smiled. Can we get lunch at that burger place? Whatever you want. We ate burgers and fries. Sophie told me about her friend Madison's birthday party next weekend, about the science project she wanted to do on volcanoes, about how her teacher said she was really good at math. I watched her talk, her expressions, the way she gestured with her hands, the shape of her nose. Derek Walsh had 3 kids. I'd seen their photos in Bill's report, 2 boys and a girl. The girl was 14. She had the same nose as Sophie, the same way of tilting her head when she was thinking. Dad, You're being weird. Am I? You keep staring at me. Sorry, I'm just happy to spend time with you. She dipped a fry in ketchup. Mom says you work too much. I know. I'm gonna change that. Really? Really? I want to be around more. Pick you up from school. Help with homework. All of it. Sophie's face lit up. That would be so cool. Madison's dad picks her up every day and they get ice cream sometimes. We can do that. Promise? Promise. We got home at 4. Emily's car was gone. I checked my phone. One text from her, sent 2 hours ago. Meeting Derek to go over the report. Back by dinner. Sophie went upstairs to play. I went to my office and unlocked the file cabinet. The folder sat on top of the others. Thicker than I'd expected. Bill had been thorough. Inside, bank statements showing Emily's payments to Derek. Copies of text messages from 9 years ago, recovered from old phone records. Messages where Emily and Derek discussed our arrangement and keeping this between us and he'll never know. A DNA analysis Bill had somehow obtained. Sophie's DNA, probably from a discarded cup or utensil. Compared against Derek Walsh's DNA from a coffee cup Bill had retrieved from a trash can outside Meridian Marketing Solutions. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. There were photos too. Emily and Derek together 9 years ago, before Sophie was born. Before I'd thought there was anything between them. Before Emily had come to me with tears in her eyes and said the fertility clinic had called, that my sperm count was too low, that we'd need a donor if we wanted children. I'd believed her. I'd signed the papers she'd prepared. I'd never questioned it. The affair hadn't started 7 months ago. It had never ended. I heard Emily's car in the driveway at 6:30. I was in the kitchen making spaghetti. Sophie was setting the table. Emily came in looking flushed. Her hair was slightly messed up. She'd reapplied her lipstick but missed a spot at the corner of her mouth. "Smells good," she said. "How was the report?" "Fine. Derek approved everything." She glanced at Sophie. "How was the museum?" "It was awesome." Sophie launched into a description of the genetics exhibit, the planetarium, the burger place. Emily smiled and nodded. Her phone buzzed. She checked it, typed something back. I served dinner. We sat at the table like a normal family. Emily asked Sophie about school. Sophie asked if we could get a dog. Emily said maybe. I said we'd think about it. My phone was in my pocket, recording everything. Bill had set up the app for me, voice activated. Every conversation in the house was being documented now. Emily's phone buzzed again. She picked it up, read the message, smiled. "Work thing," she said, not looking at me. "On Saturday night?" "You know Derek, always working." Sophie finished her spaghetti. "Can I watch TV?" "Sure, honey." She ran off to the living room. Emily started clearing plates. I helped. We moved around the kitchen in a familiar dance, loading the dishwasher, wiping counters. "You were good with Sophie today," Emily said. "I'm her father." "I know, I just mean, it's nice, her having more time with you. I'm going to make it a regular thing, every Saturday, maybe Sundays too." Emily paused, a dish in her hand. "Every weekend?" "Why not? You're always busy with work anyway." "I'm not always. The report today, that conference next month, the client dinners." I kept my voice neutral. "You work hard. You should have more time for yourself." She set the dish down slowly. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to be more involved, with Sophie, with everything." That's great." But her voice was uncertain. "I just don't want you to overcommit and then—" "I won't." Her phone buzzed again. She grabbed it immediately, read the message. Her expression softened. "I need to make a call," she said. "Work thing." She went upstairs. I heard her office door close. I finished loading the dishwasher, wiped down the counters, checked my phone. Catherine Brennan had emailed me earlier. Subject line: Timeline adjustment. I opened it. Mr. Patterson, given the new information Bill provided, we need to discuss strategy. The paternity issue changes everything. Call me Monday morning. This is now a different case entirely. KB Fi. I deleted the email. Dried my hands. Went to check on Sophie. She was watching a cartoon, curled up on the couch with her favorite blanket, the one with stars on it that we'd bought when she was 3. Hey, sweetheart. Hey, Dad. I love you. You know that, right? She looked up at me, confused by the sudden seriousness. Yeah, I love you too. Good. Upstairs, I could hear Emily's voice through her office door. Low and intimate, laughing at something Derek said. I sat down next to Sophie, put my arm around her, watched the cartoon. Monday morning, I'd call Catherine. We'd discuss the new timeline, the new strategy. Everything had changed. But Emily didn't know that yet. I sat at my desk until 2 in the morning. Bill's report spread before me like autopsy photographs. The payments, the timeline. The DNA results from the hair samples Bill had collected from Derek's car. 98.7% probability of paternity. Sophie wasn't mine. 9 years of bedtime stories. 9 years of scraped knees and birthday parties. 9 years of being her father while Emily smiled and let me believe the lie she'd constructed before our daughter was even born. I'd read the financial records 4 times. The $1,500 monthly payments to Derek started 10 months before Sophie's birth. They stopped when Sophie was 6 months old, then resumed last August, 7 months ago, when I'd thought the affair had begun. There had never been an affair that started 7 months ago. There had been a 9-year conspiracy with a brief intermission. My phone buzzed. Emily, from our bedroom downstairs. You coming to bed? Soon, I typed back. Finishing up work. The lie came easily now. I'd been practicing. I opened my laptop and pulled up the folder Bill had sent. Inside were photographs I hadn't wanted to see but needed to understand. Emily at 29, visibly pregnant, meeting Derek at a coffee shop. Emily 2 months after Sophie's birth, Derek's hand on her shoulder outside a different hotel. A gap of several years with no photographs. Bill had found only financial records from that period, Derek's deposits into an account Emily had kept hidden. Then recent photos. Emily and Derek at the Riverside Inn. Emily and Derek in his car. Emily and Derek at a restaurant 30 miles outside town where they thought no one would recognize them. In every photograph from 9 years ago, Emily wore the same expression she wore in the recent ones. Not guilt. Not conflict. Just satisfaction. I closed the laptop before I put my fist through the screen. The question I'd been avoiding settled over me like a burial shroud. Did I still want custody of Sophie? My hands trembled. I pressed them flat against the desk until they stopped. Sophie, 9 years old, brown hair like Emily's, green eyes like Derek's. I'd never noticed before, never had a reason to look. She laughed like Emily, but had Derek's stubborn chin. Genetics I'd attributed to Emily's side of the family because I'd had no reason to question the narrative. She called me Daddy. She ran to me when I came home from work, the few times I made it home before her bedtime. She'd drawn a picture last week of our family, 3 stick figures holding hands, Daddy, Mommy, and me, written in crayon across the top. Did I still want custody? The answer came immediately, cold and certain. Yes. Biology didn't erase 9 years. Derek Walsh had contributed genetic material and monthly payments. I'd contributed everything else. Every fever. Every nightmare. Every parent-teacher conference I'd managed to attend. I'd been building a life with Emily, yes, but I'd also been building a life with Sophie. Derek didn't know. Bill's report was clear on that point. Derek had no idea Sophie was his daughter. The payments had been framed as compensation for Emily's silence about their relationship. Derek thought he'd been paying hush money to his mistress, not child support to the mother of his fourth child. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't been my life. I pulled out my legal pad and started writing. The paternity issue changed everything about the divorce strategy, but it didn't change my objective. Emily would lose. Derek would lose. Sophie would stay with me. New variables to consider. First, legal paternity versus biological paternity. I'd signed Sophie's birth certificate. I'd been her father for 9 years in every legal sense. Emily had committed fraud, lying about the sperm donor, lying about the fertility issues, lying about everything. That fraud might work in my favor. Second, Derek's exposure. If he learned Sophie was his daughter, he might fight for custody or visitation. That couldn't happen. Sophie didn't need to know the man she'd met at Emily's office. Christmas parties was her biological father. Third, Jennifer Walsh. Derek's wife deserved to know, but telling her created unpredictable variables. Bill had noted that Jennifer came from money. Old money. The kind that funded Derek's lifestyle and career. If she divorced him, Derek would be financially destroyed. That served my purposes, but the timing had to be controlled. Fourth, Emily's calculation. She'd structured this entire deception for a reason. The sperm donor story had protected Derek's marriage while giving Emily the child she wanted. It had locked me into fatherhood without my informed consent. It had been elegant, in its sociopathic way. I wrote until my hand cramped, filling 6 pages with scenarios and contingencies. At 2:47 a.m., I heard footsteps on the stairs. I swept the papers into my desk drawer and pulled up a spreadsheet on my computer screen. Emily appeared in the doorway wearing the silk nightgown I'd bought her for Christmas. "James, it's almost 3. Come to bed." I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd married at 26. The woman who'd cried when the doctor supposedly told us I was infertile. The woman who'd held my hand through the difficult decision to use a sperm donor. The woman who'd known exactly whose sperm would be used and had smiled while I signed papers acknowledging a child that was never mine. "I need to finish this analysis," I said. "Go ahead without me." She crossed her arms. "You've been different lately, distant. 80-hour weeks will do that. It's more than that." She stepped into the office. "You're home more, but you're not really here. You look at me like—" She trailed off. "Like what?" "Like you're studying me. Like I'm a problem you're trying to solve." I turned back to my computer. "You're imagining things. I'm just tired. We should talk about us, about our marriage." The audacity of it struck me silent for 3 seconds. Emily wanted to talk about our marriage while her boss, her baby's father, was texting her about leaving his wife. "Not tonight," I said. "I have a deadline Monday." She stood there for another moment. I felt her eyes on me, calculating, wondering if she'd been discovered. Then she left, her footsteps soft on the stairs. I waited until I heard our bedroom door close. Then I pulled out my phone and texted Bill. "Need to meet tomorrow, Sunday morning. Same diner." His response came within 30 seconds. 10 a.m. I opened my desk drawer and looked at the DNA report again. The numbers didn't change. Sophie shared 50% of her genetic material with Derek Walsh. She shared 0% with me. But genetics weren't destiny. Emily had taught me that with her carefully constructed lies. Biology could be manipulated, obscured, weaponized. If she could use it to deceive me for 9 years, I could use it to destroy her now. I pulled up Catherine Brennan's contact information. Her email had said to call any time, day or night, if the situation changed. This qualified. But it was 3 a.m. on a Saturday. Even aggressive divorce attorneys slept. I drafted an email instead. "Ms. Brennan, New information has emerged that significantly changes the case parameters. The child in question is not biologically mine. Wife committed fraud regarding paternity, falsely claiming anonymous sperm donor while using known donor, her current affair partner, without my knowledge or consent. I have DNA evidence. Need emergency consultation Monday morning before our scheduled appointment. This cannot wait. I read it 3 times, then deleted emergency consultation and replaced it with earliest available appointment. No need to sound desperate, even if the situation was desperate. I sent the email at 3:17 a.m. Then I pulled out the folder Bill had compiled on Derek Walsh. 42 years old. Married 16 years. 3 children. Tyler, 14. Madison, 12. Ethan, 8. And 1 more child he didn't know about. Sophie, 9. Derek's financial records showed a comfortable life funded largely by his wife's family money. His salary at Meridian was $140,000 annually. Jennifer's trust fund contributed another $200,000 per year. They lived in a house her parents had bought them. Derek drove a leased BMW that Jennifer's father co-signed. If Jennifer divorced him, Derek would lose everything. The house, the cars, the lifestyle, probably his job too, since Jennifer's uncle sat on Meridian's board of directors. Derek had built his life on a foundation of other people's money and his wife's family connections. Emily had built her life on lies and manipulation. They deserved each other. They deserved what was coming. I closed the folder and shut down my computer. Tomorrow I'd meet with Bill and start planning the next phase. Monday I'd talk to Catherine about the paternity issue. The timeline would need adjustment, but the objective remained the same. Emily would lose everything. Derek would lose everything. Sophie would stay with me, and neither of them would see it coming until it was far too late to stop it. Bill's expression across the diner table told me everything before he spoke. Derek contacted Whitfield and Associates yesterday afternoon. Consultation scheduled for Wednesday. I set down my coffee. Sunday morning, 10:15 a.m. The diner smelled like bacon grease and burned toast. He's actually doing it. Looks that way. My contact says he asked specifically about high-conflict divorces involving infidelity. Bill pulled out his tablet. Also got this from last night. The text messages loaded on screen. Emily, 11:34 p.m. He knows something. I can feel it. Derek, 11:41 p.m. You're paranoid. Emily, 11:43 p.m. He's different. He's never home this much. Never cares about Sophie's schedule. Derek, 11:47 p.m. Maybe he's finally being a father. Emily, 11:52 p.m. What if he hired someone? What if he has proof? Derek, 11:58 p.m. Then he would have confronted you by now. Relax. Emily, 12:03 a.m. You said you'd leave Jennifer. You said we'd be together. Derek, 12:09 a.m. And we will. I'm meeting with the attorney Wednesday. It's happening. Emily, 12:15 a.m. Promise me. Derek, 12:18 a.m. I promise. I love you. Both of you. I read that last line 3 times. Both of you? Keep reading. Emily, 12:21 a.m. She's going to look just like you when she's older. She already has your eyes. Derek, 12:24 a.m. I wish I could tell her. Be her real father. Emily, 12:29 a.m. Someday, when this is all over, we'll tell her together. My hand stayed steady, but something volcanic churned in my chest. Derek knew. He'd always known. The payments, I said. They weren't hush money. No. Bill's voice was quiet. They were child support. Voluntary, off the books, but child support. He's known since before Sophie was born. The diner suddenly felt too small, too bright, too loud. I stood up. I need air. Outside, the November morning was cold and clear. I walked to the edge of the parking lot and stared at nothing while my mind recalibrated 9 years of reality. Derek had known from the beginning. He'd participated in the deception. He'd looked me in the eye at office parties, shaken my hand, made small talk about sports and weather, all while knowing he'd fathered my daughter. While knowing Emily came home to my bed after leaving his. Bill appeared beside me. "You okay?" They both knew. For 9 years, they both knew. "Yeah." Sophie calls me daddy. She draws pictures of our family. And the whole time, they were planning to take her away and tell her the truth. That's about the size of it. I turned to face him. "I need everything. Every text message, every email, every financial record. Everything that proves they planned this from the start. You'll have it by tomorrow morning." Bill hesitated. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to burn their lives down." Catherine Brennan's emergency consultation happened in her office at 7 Monday morning. She'd read my email, reviewed the files Bill sent her, and had 3 legal pads filled with notes by the time I arrived. "Sit," she said. I sat. "This is the most comprehensive fraud I've seen in 20 years of family law." She tapped the DNA report. "Your wife and her affair partner conspired to deceive you about paternity, collected child support under the table, and maintained the affair for the entirety of your marriage. That's not just grounds for divorce. That's grounds for criminal fraud charges." "Can we file those?" "Potentially, but let's talk strategy first." She pulled out a timeline she'd constructed. "You've been Sophie's legal father for 9 years. You're on the birth certificate. You've supported her financially and emotionally. In Virginia, that establishes legal paternity regardless of biology. Derek Walsh has no legal claim to Sophie unless he files a paternity suit. Would he win? Possibly. But it would require him to admit to 9 years of fraud, adultery, and paying under-the-table child support while married to someone else. It would destroy his marriage and his career. My guess is he won't risk it." "But he might?" "He might." Catherine leaned forward. "Which is why we need to move fast and hit hard. We file for divorce this week. We request emergency custody based on Emily's affair and plans to relocate Sophie. We expose the paternity fraud to the court under seal so it's part of the record but not public. And we make it very clear that if Derek interferes, we'll destroy him publicly." "What about Emily?" "Emily loses everything. The affair alone would limit her custody rights. The paternity fraud makes her look like a sociopath. No judge will grant primary custody to a mother who's been lying about her child's father for 9 years." Catherine's smile was sharp. "She might get supervised visitation if she's lucky." "And the assets?" "Virginia allows fault-based divorce. Adultery and fraud mean you'll get the majority of marital property. The house, the savings, most of the retirement accounts. She'll get enough to survive, but she won't be comfortable." I thought about Emily's text messages, about her plans to leave me and take Sophie, about 9 years of deception. "Do it," I said. "File everything." The divorce petition was filed Wednesday at 9 a.m. Emily was served at her office at 10:30 a.m. by a process server who found her in a conference room with Derek Walsh. I know because Bill had someone watching. My phone rang at 10:47 a.m. Emily, her voice shaking. "What the hell is this?" "Exactly what it looks like." "You can't. We need to talk about this." "Talk to my attorney, Catherine Brennan. Her number's on the papers." "James, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. You've been sleeping with Derek for 9 years. You lied about Sophie's father. There's nothing to work out." Silence. Then, quietly, "You know, I know everything. Sophie is your daughter. You raised her. You love her. Which is why I'm getting full custody. You can't take her from me. Watch me." I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I declined the call. It rang 4 more times before stopping. At 11:15 a.m., my office phone rang. Derek Walsh. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Mr. Patterson. His voice was controlled, professional. I think we should meet and discuss this situation rationally. There's nothing to discuss. Sophie is my daughter. Sophie is my daughter. You're a sperm donor who's been paying hush money for 9 years. I want a relationship with her. I have rights. You have no rights. You're married. You committed adultery. You participated in fraud. If you try to claim paternity, I'll make sure your wife, your children, and your employer know everything. Jennifer's family will destroy you. Meridian will fire you. You'll lose your house, your career, and your other 3 children. Is that what you want? Silence. Stay away from Sophie, I said. Stay away from Emily. If I see you near either of them, I'll bury you. I hung up. At 2 p.m., Catherine called. Emily's attorney just contacted me. She wants to negotiate. No negotiations. James, listen to me. She's offering to accept minimal custody in exchange for you not exposing the paternity fraud publicly. She's scared. She should be. She's also offering to resign from Meridian and move out of state. She knows she's lost. I considered it. Emily gone. Derek contained. Sophie safe with me. What does she want? Visitation, 1 weekend per month. Video calls weekly. And she wants you to agree never to tell Sophie the truth about her biological father. Absolutely not. James, Sophie deserves to know the truth. Maybe not now, but someday. I won't agree to keep lying to her. Catherine sighed. If you insist on reserving the right to tell Sophie, Emily won't settle. This goes to court, and everything becomes public record. Sophie's paternity, the affair, all of it. Is that what you want for her? I hadn't thought about that. Sophie, finding out in a courtroom. Or worse, finding out from classmates who'd heard their parents talking about the scandal. What do you recommend? Agree to keep the paternity issue private until Sophie is 18. At that point, she's an adult and can handle the truth. In exchange, Emily accepts minimal custody and moves out of state. You get the house, primary custody, and most of the assets. It's a clean win. I thought about Sophie. 9 years old, drawing pictures of our family, calling me daddy. Fine, I said, but I want it in writing. Emily has no claim to Sophie after age 18. When I tell her the truth, Emily doesn't get to suddenly play victim and demand a relationship. I'll draft the language. The settlement was finalized 6 weeks later. Emily got supervised visitation 1 weekend per month to be reduced to unsupervised after 1 year of compliance. She got 30% of the marital assets. She got no alimony. She resigned from Meridian Marketing Solutions and moved to Atlanta. Derek Walsh's marriage survived, barely. I'd sent Jennifer Walsh a carefully curated file of evidence, enough to prove the affair, not enough to reveal Sophie's paternity. Jennifer kicked Derek out for 3 months, then took him back under conditions I could only imagine. His career at Meridian ended when Jennifer's uncle made a phone call to the CEO. Last I heard, Derek was working at a small marketing firm for half his previous salary. Sophie adjusted better than I'd expected. Emily had been so distracted by the affair that her absence wasn't as disruptive as it might have been. I'd already established myself as the primary parent by the time Emily left. Sophie missed her mother, but she had stability, routine, and a father who was finally present. I reduced my work hours to 50 per week. I picked Sophie up from school every day. We got ice cream on Fridays. I helped with homework every night. I attended every parent-teacher conference, every soccer game, every school play. Emily called Sophie every Sunday evening. The conversations were awkward at first, but they developed a rhythm. Emily never mentioned Derek. She never explained why she'd moved away. Sophie stopped asking after a few months. On Sophie's 10th birthday, Emily sent a card and a present from Atlanta. Sophie opened it, said cool, and went back to her party. She'd already moved on. 3 years later, I sat in my office reviewing college savings projections for Sophie. She was 12 now, tall for her age, still had Derek's green eyes, but she'd developed her own personality. Sharp, funny, fiercely independent. She didn't know the truth yet. Wouldn't know for 6 more years, per the settlement agreement. Sometimes I wondered if I'd actually tell her when she turned 18. What purpose would it serve, except to shatter her understanding of her own history? But I'd reserved the right. That mattered. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie, who was at soccer practice. "Can Madison sleep over Friday?" I smiled and typed back, "Sure." Another text immediately. "You're the best dad ever." I stared at those words for a long time. The truth was complicated. I wasn't Sophie's biological father. But biology was just chemistry and chance. Fatherhood was showing up. It was being present. It was putting someone else's needs above your own for 18 years and not keeping score. Emily had taught me that lesson, though not the way she'd intended. She'd shown me that deception might work in the short term, but truth always emerged eventually. That people who built their lives on lies would eventually watch those lives collapse. Derek had learned the same lesson. He'd lost his career, nearly lost his family, and would spend the rest of his life knowing he had a daughter he could never acknowledge. Emily had lost everything she'd schemed for. She'd wanted Derek, wanted Sophie, wanted the fantasy life she'd constructed in her affair-addled mind. Instead, she got supervised visitation and a lonely apartment in Atlanta. I'd won. Not because I was smarter or better, but because I'd been patient. Because I'd documented everything. Because I'd played the long game while they'd been focused on immediate gratification. But winning felt different than I'd expected. There was satisfaction, yes. Justice had been served. The people who'd betrayed me had faced consequences. But there was also Sophie, 12 years old, innocent, caught in the middle of adult deception and revenge. She was happy now, stable, thriving. She had friends, hobbies, a father who showed up. She had a life that wasn't defined by the lies that had created her. Maybe that was enough. Maybe the real victory wasn't destroying Emily and Derek. Maybe it was building something better from the wreckage they'd left behind. I texted Sophie back, "Love you, sweetheart. See you at 5. Her response came immediately. "Love you too, Dad." Dad, not Daddy anymore. She'd outgrown that last year. But still Dad. Still mine in every way that mattered. I closed my laptop and headed out early to watch the rest of her soccer practice. Because that's what fathers do. They show up. They stay. They build trust through consistency, not genetics. Emily and Derek had taught me what not to do. Sophie had taught me what actually mattered. And in the end, that was the only lesson worth learning.